Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 749 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, and I think we've got a new grand champion as far as best Ranger win of the season is concerned, and anybody who watched that game last night, or even if you just saw the highlights, you know exactly why that is. The Rangers defeating the first place in the Western Conference Dallas Stars by a final score of 2-1 in overtime, winning the game in what was nothing short of spectacular fashion. You've got K'Andre Miller tying the game in regulation at 1-1 with less than a second remaining, and then Adam Fox winning the game a little bit more than a minute into the overtime period. A couple of highlight reel goals that we're going to break down in great detail in just a second. We're going to talk about just the insane conclusion to this game, the third period and the overtime. Also want to get into the new line combinations that the Rangers went with going into this game. Obviously, Chris Kreider was unavailable with his upper body injury, and so Alexis Lafreniere moved up. A couple other changes as well. So we'll definitely discuss that. Also going to talk about some of the late game line changes that the Rangers made and why I don't think it was necessarily a bad idea given the way that this game was going. I do think that sometimes they change lines too much, but I think it at least made some sense, once again, given the way this game unfolded. Also going to talk about just a nasty collision between Sammy Blais and Julien Gauthier, and keep our fingers crossed that they're both okay. Blais returned to the game. Julien Gauthier did not. But let's go ahead and just dive right into it here as far as the conclusion to this game. So for starters, I wanted to talk a little bit about the line combinations. Basically, the only thing that was different is you had Lafreniere in Kreider's spot on the top line on the left wing. He also took Kreider's spot on the power play. More on that in a little bit as well. You had Barclay Goodrow at the left wing spot on the third line. Johnny Brodzinski was centering the fourth line. Then they made some combinations that were different in the third period. You had a kid line reunion. You had Mika, Krasov, and Goodrow. And you had Panarin, Trocheck, and Vesey. And again, you're searching for something because this game was a little bit of a slog. It was very, very different from the game that the Rangers and Stars played against each other earlier this season when the Rangers beat the Stars 6-3. This is more of a defensive struggle, and high-quality scoring opportunities were at a premium. You see that the Rangers beat the Stars 2-1, and you know it's Igor against Jake Oettinger, two of the best goalies in the world, and you probably just figure if you didn't see the game, oh, man, that must have been a goaltender clinic. And they were both very good. They both made some really nice saves in some really big spots, but it wasn't really about that. This is more of just kind of a defensive struggle and a lack of scoring opportunities being permitted by either side. But without any further ado, let's go ahead, get to the big finish here as far as how this game ended in regulation and what happened in the overtime period. So you get the Stars. The Rangers have Igor pulled, so it's 6-on-5. The Stars are able to get the puck into the neutral zone with 30 seconds remaining. K'Andre Miller gets the puck, shoots it back in with 23 seconds to go. And I'm going to spare no detail here because both these goals were awesome. It's the best win of the Ranger season. So fair warning, we're going to go over both these goals in a lot of detail here. I don't want to leave any stone unturned and discredit any play that anybody made here. So once again, Miller shooting the puck in with 23 seconds to go. You got Kakko up the right side, plays it along the boards, back behind the net. Trocheck is behind the net. He plays it around to Panarin on the other side, along the boards. Panarin passes back to the blue line to K'Andre Miller. Now, Miller obviously tied this game and made a great play when he tied the game. He made a great play here, too, because when Panarin passed to him, Miller's right there at the point. He's got a defender bearing down on him. Coming full speed at him. Miller's got just a split second to do something with the puck, and he's able to corral it. It wasn't right on the tape. He had to kind of reach for it and then played it back up the boards. You get the puck going back around behind the net to Trocheck. Trocheck back up the boards on the right side to Fox. Fox back around the boards behind the net to Trocheck. And then Trocheck passing to Panarin along the boards. And we'll just pause the play right here. There's about 8 seconds remaining. But how many times did I just say along the boards? The Rangers really had to work here just to maintain possession of the puck. But, sooner or later, you got to get the puck away from the boards. You got to get toward the net. You got to give somebody a chance to hopefully get the game winner. And they were trying. But the Stars were defending very well. And it was all the Rangers could do to just, keep the play alive and maintain possession of the puck. Because if they give up the puck here and the Stars get it clear, that's pretty much going to be all she wrote for this game, and the Rangers are going to lose. So to unpause the play, again, there's 8 seconds remaining at this point. Panarin's got the puck, once again, along the boards. He plays it toward the front of the net with 8 seconds remaining, and at this point, it's just a wild scramble. You've got 4 Rangers pretty much in the crease or near the crease trying to stuff this puck home. Mika was there, Trocheck was there, Kakko and Fox were both there as well. Puck comes back out It's moving, toward the Ranger blue line. And Trocheck, he tried to chase the puck initially, and he got his stick on it for just a second, but a really, really smart play by Vincent Trocheck here, because as I mentioned, he deflected the puck as the puck was moving away from the Dallas net, but he was smart enough not to continue to chase it and to try to get possession of the puck. And, his momentum was carrying him away from the Dallas net. If he picked up the puck here, he would have had to, stop himself and just kind of throw the puck at the net. And it's just kind of a wing and a prayer at that point. But I think Trocheck saw that K'Andre Miller was approaching the loose puck here, and I think he recognized, okay, that's our chance right there. Miller's going to have a much better chance of scoring here than I'm going to have. And, Miller's moving toward the net. He's got his momentum behind it, and you got to figure, if you're Trocheck or just anybody watching this game, that what Miller's probably going to do is just wind back and blast a slap shot and hope for the best. That's about all you can do at this point in the game, and that's what Miller did. Wound back, cranked a slap shot. It got blocked by a Dallas defender, but Miller was able to get it back, takes a wrist shot, just puts it at the net, and he scores, and he ties the game with less than a second remaining, 0.9 seconds left to be exact. Just awesome. K'Andre Miller, man, I mean, he's becoming a superstar. As I mentioned recently, his slow start to the season was just so confusing. I just could not understand what was happening there for the life of me, because he looked like a budding superstar toward the end of last season and in the playoffs, and he's back to looking like that very same player. But K'Andre Miller was on the ice for 2 minutes and 25 seconds here, and a lot of these six Ranger players, I just mentioned all of them, they were all on the ice for a long period of time here, and I think Henrik Lundqvist, in the studio, he made a great point after the game. He pointed out that, all these guys were on the ice forever. And, I'm sure they were tired, but they just kept grinding. They just kept working. I mentioned a second ago how the puck was along the boards for seemingly an eternity there, and the Rangers were just working and working and working just to keep the puck away from the Stars, just to maintain possession, just to give themselves a chance. And obviously their hard work paid off in a really big way here. But, the Rangers, like I said, those six players were on the ice forever, and I think that might have also had something to do with the way that the Rangers started the overtime period, because it wasn't the usual suspects that were on the ice to start the OT. You had Chytil, Lafreniere, and Schneider, none of whom were on the ice at the end of the third period there when, all that craziness was going on. So they were fresh. There is a little bit of a break between the third period and overtime, but not really that much, and in Gallant's estimation, probably determined that the six guys on the ice need a little bit more of a breather, and maybe, he was also kind of giving those players a vote of confidence, Chytil and Lafreniere and Schneider. And the one thing that's not ideal here about starting these three players is that means that Filip Chytil is going to take the faceoff. Chytil this season is succeeding at a rate of just 39.1% on the faceoff circle, but he won this faceoff, and Lafreniere was talking about this after the game because he was asked about, starting the overtime period, and apparently once he found out that they were going to start, him and Chytil and Schneider, he looked at Chytil and he said, we got to win this faceoff, and Chytil took care of business there, pretty much won it clean, and, Chytil, Lafreniere, and Schneider, not really any great scoring chances, but the one thing they were able to at least do was maintain possession of the puck for pretty much their entire shift. The Stars might have had it for just a couple of seconds. Rangers took it back not long after that, and we are getting deafening "Let's go Rangers" chants. There's arenas in this league that I don't think even get this loud in the playoffs, and this is a regular season game, and, the crowd, they're all jacked up after the way that the Rangers tied this game, and it's great that at the very least you have a point, but let's be real here. You tie a game in the fashion that the Rangers tied a game at the end of regulation here, you want to win that game. Forget about an overtime loss and forget about, it's a point in the standings. No, you want to win this game come hell or high water, and the Rangers are able to do that. Filip Chytil and Lafreniere, they eventually get off the ice. Panarin and Mika jump on, and then Schneider, not too long after this, is able to get off for Adam Fox. Schneider leaves the ice, and Adam Fox jumps on. And then just a complete scramble, complete chaos. Mika makes a pass to his left to Panarin in the neutral zone. Panarin picks up the puck near the Dallas blue line and kind of close to the boards. And I don't even know how he did this. I mean, I guess the answer is he's Artemi Panarin, but he's able to just basically slip past a Dallas defender despite not having a lot of room here. Again, when he received this pass, he was a couple feet away from the blue line, cross over the blue line, and the defender's there. He's in position, and Panarin basically just went to the outside of him along the boards, slipped right past him, went to the net. Oettinger with a really nice save there to momentarily keep the Stars alive. The Stars get to the rebound, and they're about to skate away with it, but Mika Zibanejad is there. He immediately knocks the puck loose, basically as the Stars were trying to skate away with it. Mika picks it up in the crease or near the crease there, Oettinger pokes it away from him, and it's still laying there. And at this point, Mika Zibanejad has fallen down in the crease. Panarin's, he's there too. He's trying to get to the puck. All three Dallas skaters were there as well. So again, it's just complete chaos, a complete scramble. Everybody, either trying to knock the puck into the net or at least get possession of the puck if you're the Rangers, or if you're the Stars, trying to just get it out of there. But eventually, Panarin finally gets control of the puck. You've got Adam Fox crashing the net. Panarin makes a really short pass to his right to Adam Fox. You got a defenseman down on one knee. So Fox hits the brakes, pulls the puck to his backhand, and scores into the far side of the net. And like I said, I didn't want to leave out any details of these two goals, but what a win. I mean, that place absolutely exploded. The Rangers were fired up. And again, you don't want to use this term too loosely, like every great game, and just say, oh, this felt like a playoff game. But this one did. It was low scoring. Everything was very tightly contested. And of course, as many playoff games do, you get some fireworks near the end and a really exciting finish. And the Rangers winning in overtime here. And if I could be permitted just one humble brag here, one very humble brag about the way this game unfolded here. So our last episode, we did a preview crossover edition with Dane Lewis from Locked On Stars, and Dane does an awesome job with his show. Definitely recommend that for anybody listening. But if you saw that episode where we teamed up with Dane for the preview crossover episode, you will know that I predicted that the Rangers would win this game 3-2 in overtime, and that Adam Fox would score the game-winning goal. Close enough, and I am never going to top myself. I think the only thing that maybe could have topped this, if you guys remember last season, I said that I think Igor Shesterkin's going to get an empty net goal before the season ends, and then like 3 days later, he almost did. He missed by just a couple of feet, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't think I'll ever top myself on that one. So that was awesome to see that happen. And I mean, look, I don't really care who scores the overtime winner. If the Rangers win this game in any fashion, it's going to be awesome. Even if it wasn't for like all the heroics, if the Rangers just had like kind of a whatever, 3-2 win, 4-2 win, that's cool because you're beating a team that's in first place in the Western Conference coming into this game. Or they were tied with Vegas, but close enough. You get the idea. They were up against a heck of a team, and the Rangers have now beaten the Stars twice this season. But we got a whole lot else to talk about. Chris Kreider, his injury, and how that affects the lineup. Going to talk about Lafreniere and how he fared with a little bit more of a prominent role in Chris Kreider's absence. The Blais and Gauthier collision, whole bunch of other stuff as well. And we will do all of that in just a second. But first, just got to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories? Then you got to try a Built Bar. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they are covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievably delicious flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they are healthy. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to a Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with one of our hit flavors, brownie batter and churro. You can thank us later. All right, we just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. So, when to go ahead and talk about the injury to Chris Kreider. He is out with the upper body injury. He is considered day-to-day. Obviously, he's one of the best players on the team. And if you're a fan of this team, which I assume most of you are, you keep your fingers crossed that he can get back sooner rather than later. The Rangers have been really fortunate, knock on wood, with injuries so far this season, and it feels like over these last 2 games here, they're kind of paying for it all at once because, we'll get to the injuries to Gauthier and Blais, and even Vesey was shaken up a little bit, but all of a sudden, man, it's like the walking wounded, and it's funny because when Gauthier and Blais both got injured, there were no guarantees that either one of them were going to come back. Obviously, Blais did and Gauthier did not. Vesey was shaken up near the end of the first period, and I'm thinking like, man, we might be down to 9 forwards here, and at that point, like, not even kidding, I was wondering, like, is K'Andre Miller because he used to be a forward. He used to be a winger, in his pre-NHL days. Are we going to have to move K'Andre Miller back to the wing, for part of this game and go with 5 defensemen and like 10 forwards? There was no way to know for sure. I mean, I don't know if that's something the Rangers would keep in their back pocket for a situation like this, but I had to figure it was at least on the table. But as far as Chris Kreider goes, yeah, I mean, he's out of the lineup, and the Rangers go back to a line combination that they briefly went with right before the holiday break there. Top line of Alexis Lafreniere, Mika Zibanejad, and Kaapo Kakko. And this trio did pretty well for themselves before the holiday break. The first game out of the break was a rough one for the Rangers. They lost, I believe it was 4-0 to the Capitals. And Gallant shook up the lines, and that was pretty much the end of that trio, which, it's not the worst thing in the world. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of them, but Kreider, for the most part, you're going to want him in a top 6 role, and that's what the Rangers eventually went back to. But look, obviously we want Kreider back. I think the one silver lining here, though, is that it gives Alexis Lafreniere, for as long as Kreider's going to be out, gives him a chance to play a little bit more prominent role and maybe get him going a little bit. And I thought he played pretty well in this game. It was just one of those nights where there weren't a ton of scoring chances really for anybody, and he probably got a few more than most players in the Rangers. And we'll talk in greater detail about Lafreniere in just a second. But yeah, I mean, we've already kind of gone over the line combinations. Panarin, Trocheck, Krasov, then Gaudreau, Chytil, Vesey, then Blais, Brodzinski, Gauthier, and then also the aforementioned in-line adjustments that Gerard Gallant went with toward the end of this game, trying to get something going for this team. But as far as Chris Kreider and the impact of him, I think this is the kind of game that Kreider really could have helped the Rangers because, like I mentioned, there weren't a ton of, quality grade A scoring chances. And I think this is the kind of game where, it's going to be low scoring. It just had that feel, even just a handful of minutes into this game, this is not going to be a high scoring game. And so that being the case, you look for Kreider to maybe score on a deflection, maybe score a dirty goal, cleaning up some loose change in the crease. I think for sure he could have maybe helped in that regard. Maybe Kreider would have bagged one in a game like this. The other area where Kreider certainly could have helped was special teams because the Rangers went 0 for 4 on the power play. The Stars went 1 for 1, and Kreider's a big part of both units, and obviously he's not out there, to help in that regard. And, Lafreniere was in Kreider's spot on the top power play unit. And again, I don't think he did anything wrong, but I think he just really would want to have Kreider and somebody of his skill set available for a game such as the one that we saw last night against the Stars. The other thing I want to mention, while we're talking about Kreider here, is they replaced him with Lafreniere on the power play, which I think a lot of people are going to like. That gives him a chance to maybe get going and, maybe contribute a little bit more offensively. The one thing that I saw a couple of people mentioning on Twitter, and I'm going to mention it right here, right now, is that they put Lafreniere, literally into Kreider's spot. He was the net front presence, and Trocheck was still the bumper on the top power play unit. And I think a lot of people were looking at it as, maybe with Kreider out of the lineup, maybe it would make more sense to have Trocheck as the net front presence. That kind of fits his skill set, gritty style, and, he's not afraid to mix it up at all. So maybe you put him in front of the net, and Lafreniere, he makes some quick, sharp passes, so maybe he would be better served in the bumper role. So I can understand wanting to see that, that alignment as far as the top power play unit is concerned. I also see this side of it too, though, the way that the Rangers actually went with it, because you're missing Kreider. Do you really want to completely shuffle the deck and move Trocheck to a spot that he's not used to playing and, have Lafreniere in the bumper spot? Do you want to really reinvent the wheel and move people around? Maybe you should, because obviously the Ranger power play hasn't been that great lately. But, I can understand with the Rangers, not necessarily wanting to reinvent the wheel just because one player is missing from the top power play unit. And so whoever took Kreider's spot was going to quite literally take his spot and be the net front presence, whether it was Lafreniere or maybe Kakko, Chytil, they're all candidates, but the Rangers went with Lafreniere. And as for Lafreniere himself, again, I thought he had a pretty good game. There were a couple things early in this game that were, a little bit shaky from Lafreniere. He had a turnover where, his pass was stolen in the neutral zone, but then on that very same shift, Lafreniere went in on the forecheck, laid a big hit on his guy. There was also a situation in the first period where Lafreniere had the puck in the Rangers zone. He was skating out with it, tried to make a move on the blue line, and the Stars took it away. And you had kind of a quick developing 2-on-1. Fortunately, the Stars basically just kind of shanked their shot and, were not able to convert there. But not a good turnover on that one from Lafreniere. But, he did contribute. And again, there weren't a ton of scoring opportunities for either team. He did contribute to a few of them for the Rangers. There was a play, I want to say in the third period, I can picture it in my head. The Rangers were definitely shooting to the left, right to left on the screen. First or third period, but Lafreniere received a pass and made a great behind the back pass to Mika Zibanejad. Just moved it right across the top of the crease. Mika's shot was turned aside from in deep, so they were not able to score, but an awesome pass by Lafreniere on that play. And then there was also a play in the third period where you have Fox playing the puck toward the net. Awesome deflection by Lafreniere here. Just an even better save by Jake Oettinger. And Lafreniere also had a tip-in try in the power play that went wide by, just a couple of inches. So I thought overall he had a good game. The only one play that was not so great was that turnover where he was approaching the Ranger blue line. That was not ideal. But for the most part, Lafreniere played well. And again, a game where there weren't a ton of scoring opportunities. Obviously, not many people were on the score sheet, so I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, I mean, again, just an awesome win for the Rangers. And we're going to keep everything rolling in just a second here. Want to go ahead and talk about the Blais Gauthier collision. Also want to talk about the Rangers' power play struggles. And also a waiver claim that the Rangers made. They pick up Jake Leschyshyn from the Vegas Golden Knights, who was placed on waivers. So we're going to get to all that stuff in just a second. But first, we just got to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league. From pro football to basketball to hockey, we've got it all at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, we just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. And as for this Blais and Gauthier collision, this was nasty. This happened in the first period. Felt bad for both guys. It's one of those things, I don't know that it's really anybody's fault. I mean, Gauthier wasn't really watching where he was going, but he was watching the puck and watching the play develop. And, the two of them basically just smashed faces together. Just a scary collision. They were both bleeding. Gauthier looked like was cut under his eye, and Sammy Blais was bleeding from the mouth. And they both immediately go to the locker room. And then, this happened late in the first period. And then even later in the first period, you got Jimmy Vesey blocking a shot with his hand, and he was hurting on the bench. And so, again, like I mentioned a second ago, we might be down 3 forwards here, and that's when I started thinking, maybe K'Andre Miller is going to end up playing forward and, go back to his pre-NHL days. But, as it turns out, Sammy Blais was able to return. Jimmy Vesey, I don't think he ever missed a shift. I mean, he was out there at the start of the second period on the bench. And then right before, the puck dropped, we saw Blais come out of the locker room and rejoin his teammates on the bench. Looked like he might have had some stitches on his mouth. But, yeah, just a nasty collision. And it's one of those things, you're almost a little bit surprised that it doesn't happen a little bit more often than it does. And the other thought that I had, after this happened and I see Sammy Blais return to the bench, I'm thinking, this has got to be the night where Sammy Blais gets his first goal as a New York Ranger. This man deserves a goal. I mean, I know he hasn't played great for this team. I know there's certain fans that would like the Rangers to move on, go in a different direction, maybe call up somebody from the AHL, whatever it might be, maybe make a trade. But I think he's given it his best every single game. He has not been the same player. Not that he was a superstar player before this, but he has not been the same player since, obviously that horrible knee injury that he had last season. So I'd have loved to have seen Blais get a dirty goal in a game like this, low scoring and everything. But props to him for being tough and gutting it out and going back out there and continuing to play. Gauthier, like I said, he never returned. He was ruled out with an upper body injury, which is an interesting way to say that he smashed faces with one of his teammates. But yeah, he was ruled out. Not sure if he's going to be available in the next game. Gauthier's taken a beating lately. The game against the Wild, he took that big hit from Reeves, bounced off of another player on the Wild, and he was ruled out from returning to that game as well. So Gauthier, hopefully he gets well soon, having the best season that he's had really ever since joining the New York Rangers. But obviously, fingers crossed that Blais okay and Vesey's okay and Gauthier's okay and Kreider can get back into the lineup. Like I mentioned a second ago, the Rangers have been very, very fortunate with injuries up until basically these last 2 games when all of a sudden they're dropping like flies. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that, all these guys are okay and they're healthy and they can get back out there sooner rather than later. I do want to talk a little bit about the Ranger power play, though. They need to start converting. Look, they were 0 for 4 in this game. Sam Rosen mentioned that they were 0 for their last 5 coming into this one, so they are now 0 for their last 9 in the last handful of games here. It was a night where, the Rangers, I wouldn't say they were anemic, but I don't know if they were just like overthinking things or being a little bit too deliberate. One thing that I definitely noticed is they were not creating enough traffic, enough havoc in front of the net. I wish the Rangers, because in the game against the Wild, I thought the Rangers, not just on the power play, but in general, they did a really nice job of just, getting guys to the crease, getting guys in front, creating a little bit of chaos, and there wasn't really a whole lot of that on this power play. Maybe part of the reason for that, as I mentioned earlier, was the absence of Chris Kreider. But, I gave them a little bit of a pass against the Wild, despite them not scoring at all in that game. I can't always go to the whole thing like, well, they looked dangerous. They looked good, but they just didn't score. First of all, they didn't look as dangerous on the power play in this game as they did in the last one. And secondly, they didn't score. Sooner or later, got to find a way to put the puck into the net. And hopefully the Rangers will solve their power play issues sooner rather than later, because it's a big part of this team's success. And after being so good on the power play last year, I believe number 4 in the league, they're falling in the middle of the pack. They came into this one 15th. So they're probably 15th or worse now. I haven't checked the stats, but you get the idea. They're a middle-of-the-road power play, and they got to figure it out sooner rather than later in that department for sure. I don't want to be too negative here, because Rangers just had an awesome, epic win. The last-second goal and then the overtime winner. But I was planning on talking about the power play a little bit, so I wanted to do that regardless of the outcome of this game. The other thing that I wanted to mention here before we call it a day is a move that the Rangers made claiming Jake Leschyshyn on waivers. Leschyshyn is a 23-year-old center, lefty shot, 5'11", 190 pounds. He is a former second-round pick by the Vegas Golden Knights in 2017. He went number 62 overall. He has played in 63 career NHL games, but just 2 goals and 4 assists. And this season with Vegas, 22 games with Vegas and no points. 0 points in 22 games for Jake Leschyshyn. So, I can understand why they claimed him on waivers. Obviously, he's somebody who went fairly high in the draft, and he's still young. That's another thing. And, you can never have too many centers in this league, whether it's on your NHL roster or guys in the pipeline, whatever it might be. Leschyshyn was the healthy scratch for this game. We'll see if he gets into a game sooner rather than later. Gerard Gallant mentioned the idea of he's hoping to get him into a game at some point, so we'll see if that comes to fruition. And, we'll talk about Leschyshyn in greater detail in a future episode. Right now, just kind of wanted to basically introduce him and go through the cliff notes here of Leschyshyn. But I will say there's kind of a developing storyline on this team where you've got a lot of different players battling for those fourth-line spots. If everybody's healthy, you got to figure Barclay Goodrow. I mean, he's certainly not going to be out of the lineup, and he'll probably be on the fourth line. So Goodrow, you have him probably centering the fourth line, or maybe playing left wing if Johnny Brodzinski is in the lineup. But Goodrow's going to have one of the fourth line spots if everybody's healthy. But then you've got guys like Brodzinski and Blais and Gauthier and now Leschyshyn. Maybe Carpenter gets back into the mix at some point. Maybe Will Cuylle is a call-up for the Rangers at some point. There's a lot of names in the hat for basically just 2 spots on the fourth line for the Rangers. So that's going to be an interesting storyline to track going forward. Gauthier right now, I got to believe, if he's healthy, has a pretty firm grip on one of those 2 spots just because he's, played fairly well. But would I be stunned to see Julien Gauthier, as a healthy scratch at least a couple more times this season? No, I wouldn't, because that's just how it seems to go for him. I hope he's not, because if he's not a healthy scratch, it means that he's playing well. And then the other, aspect of this is that the Rangers at the trade deadline seem likely to add bare minimum 1 forward, maybe 2 forwards, maybe 3 forwards. I mean, who's to say for sure? But that might also squeeze some of these guys out of the lineup. But it's going to be an interesting position ballot track going forward, that is for sure. And Leschyshyn just the latest guy to kind of throw his name into the hat here, and we'll see if and when he makes his debut for the New York Rangers. The other thing I also want to mention is there is, all-star voting open for the fans right now. The NHL has announced some all-stars, 1 from every team, and of course, Igor Shesterkin for the Rangers. But the Rangers keep putting this graphic onto the screen, and it's a picture of Mika, Panarin, Fox, and Kreider. And it's like, yeah, go vote for these guys. We as a fan base need to come to some kind of an agreement here, some kind of a movement here where we figure out which one it's going to be. Because if we're spreading our votes for, 1 of 4 players, then the votes aren't going to add up enough for any single one of them. And so we might not be able to get them in. I think it probably should be Adam Fox, honestly. And obviously what he did last night, the way he's played recently, that does not hurt. But Adam Fox not being an all-star would be criminal because, I mean, he's one of the best defensemen in this league for sure, and certainly somebody who will be in the running for his second Norris. Only other thing I want to mention here before we call it a day, mentioned Will Cuylle just a second ago and the possibility of him possibly being eventually called up to the New York Rangers. Cuylle is going to represent the Hartford Wolfpack as an AHL All-Star. So big congratulations to Will Cuylle. And like I said, we'll see. I think it could go either way as far as whether or not he makes his Ranger debut at some point this season. But with the Wolfpack, Cuylle has played in 34 games. He has a team-high 10 goals. He has 7 assists. Tied for second on the team with 17 points. He's tied with Tanner Fritz with the 17 points. Turner Elson leads the way for the Wolfpack with 19 points, and Cuylle is also a +1. So once again, big congratulations to Cuylle, and we shall see if he makes his New York Ranger debut at some point this season. But that will do it for today, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com, and definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is @LO_NY_Rangers, and definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.